Your inner mover hasn't gone anywhere. She's just been taking a bit of a rest. Do you remember that young girl who used to do cartwheels on the front footpath every afternoon after school? Or maybe the girl who used to sing in her loudest voice with a microphone hairbrush and dance around her bedroom with her record player? Or maybe you were the girl who used to walk and just because the sun was simply shining and you just loved doing it. Or maybe you got on your swing every afternoon and you went as high as you could. And the biggest thrill was when you jumped off of that and landed perfectly. But you know what? Here's something that might surprise you is that that girl, she mightn't be there right now, but she is still inside of you. She hasn't gone anywhere. She's just waiting for you to remember who she was. So today, what I'm going to do is to dig deep into this incredibly fascinating story of why so many of us amazing women disconnect from movement. And more importantly, what we want to look at is how to find our way back to it, right? And we're not talking about any fancy type of exercise program or adding more things to your to-do list because you've probably got enough on that to-do list right now. But what we want to do is understand what your unique story is when it comes to movement. Now, this topic hits really close to home for me because I've watched it in many of my clients, and I've seen it particularly with my mum and my grandmother, who their worlds have just suddenly shrunk. And I'm going to be like completely honest. I have lived this myself because I was the kid who was out there walking to school every day, riding my push bike up and down, climbing trees, being on the swings, doing all sorts of things. But when it came to being an adult, when I had all of those extra responsibilities, children of my own, a career I was building, everything just got in the road. And so moving was just, it was just a chore. And I didn't want to add it onto my to-do list. But here's what I've learned through both research and experience is that we all do have this natural mover inside of us. And what I'm going to do today is share with you exactly how to go about finding her and waking her up again. So firstly, I want to start by talking about the inner mover theory. So this is quite fascinating, something that I've learned when I started looking at the study of science, the science of movement and behavior. So our brains actually form these pathways like well-worn bush tracks. And that's based on our movement patterns. And when we stop moving in certain ways, those tracks can become a little bit overgrown. But here's what is really amazing about this is that when we start to move again, we can start to actually push those worn tracks away. So this is where the research in neuroplasticity shows us that our bodies and our brains are incredibly adaptable as we age. So this is pretty awesome news, right? So we can do it no matter where we are in our life or what we're capable of doing right now as well too. So when I was younger, I was always on the move. I played every afternoon. I hung out with friends. We'd have huge cricket games in the middle of the street when I was a child. We'd all go and climb trees. We'd eat all the mulberries off the mulberry trees. Um, we would play tag up and down the footpaths. The list just goes on and on and on. So movement wasn't exercise at all. It was just life. It was just having fun, and it was about having the freedom to just be. And of course, life happened, career, family, responsibilities, everything just piled up. And movement became something that I should do rather than something that I love to do. Now, does that sound familiar? So that natural mover, she's the part of you that moved for fun, the freedom. She didn't move because someone told her you should do it or because you were trying to fix something about yourself. She just did it. She moved because it felt good, because it was fun, because her body was designed to move, and she trusted that completely. And here's the beautiful truth in all of this. That part of you has never actually left you. She's just maybe been resting for a little while, or maybe a little bit longer than a little while you've been busy doing other amazing things that life has thrown at you. But she's ready to come out whenever you are. So if you're ready, let's step in to step 2, which is why we step away. And this is the past, okay? So what's happened? How do we go from those carefree movers to women who see exercise as punishment or another form of an item that I have to put on my to-do list? Sometimes it just happens in a blink of an eye. I watched this with mum when her world suddenly shrank and movement became this scary thing instead of this natural part of life that it had always been. And other times it may be something gradual, as like the sunset set when you watch it go down. It's so slow that you barely notice it, and then all of a sudden that light's gone. I like to call that the aging slippery slope because there are so many things that if we were paying attention to them, that we'd notice those little things and we could pick ourselves up. Something as simple as doing up your bra and, putting your hands behind your back, and then all of a sudden you're not doing this anymore. You're doing up your bra at the front, and then you're swiveling it around to your back, and you're shoving your arms through through the holes. Or maybe, when you were a kid, you'd stand and you'd throw your shoes off, whereas now you're probably sitting, and maybe you've got that voice or that breath that you thought would never happen, that one that you've heard your mum or dad do, or your grandparents, where they're breathing quite loud when they sit down to do something. And maybe that's happened with you as well too, when you're trying to take your shoes off. Who knows? But there's so many things that we could find that are there going, hey, pay attention to me. There's something going on here. So, what's happened in life? Maybe your kids needed more attention. And that's okay because that's important at that point in life. Maybe your work got really hectic for you and movement became that luxury. Maybe you just couldn't afford as well too. And maybe someone made an offhanded comment about you being too old, or maybe you're not fit enough to do something. And so that could be pretty off-putting as well too. Or maybe there was an injury that happened, and or you're noticing more aches and pains that you used to. And this type of thing is putting you off movement, and you're thinking that movement is associated with more pain instead of pleasure. And maybe like so many women that I've worked with over the years, movement has become tangled up with weight loss or body image, and all those messages that we see or hear that we should look like. And so suddenly movement isn't about how we feel anymore. It's become more about how we look. And when the results don't match with the promises, it becomes easier for us just to stop. Now, I remember working with a client, Jenny, some years back, and she hadn't done any type of movement for about 20 years. So this was a big thing for her. She was convinced that her body was too far gone, and she'd look at other women her age and who seemed to have it all figured out, and she'd think, well, it's it's just too late for me. But here's what I've learned from working with thousands of women over the past 20 years and myself as well too. What I've noticed is that it's never too late. I'm not someone who was a gym goer during my life, and I didn't walk into a gym until I was in my 40s, and that was the first time. And so it isn't too late. I started skiing in my 40s because what I found was, and what I know this to be true for many of my clients as well too, that our bodies are remarkable things and they respond to even the smallest of positive changes. And, scientists call this progressive adaptation, but I just like to call it giving your body a chance to remember what she loves to do. So we're going to delve back into the past. So I want you to start thinking about, okay, what were the things that I like to do? And how could I do those things now? Or is there something that might give me that feeling that I used to get when I was a child as well too? So we're going to step away from the past and we're going to move to our vision path now. We're going to move into the future. And so this is, what's life going to be like? Um, so what we're doing is we want to start thinking about, well, what are the things that I'm noticing that I can't do now? What are the things that I really want to be able to do in 10 years' time or 20 years' time? Do I want to chase the grandkiddos around the park without thinking twice about it or without being actually totally puffed out? Or maybe I'm a gardener and maybe I want to tend that garden without my back protesting and screaming at me saying, oh, get up. Oh, no, I'm so stiff. I can't do anything anymore. Or maybe, as Anne told me, she wanted to dance at the grandkids' weddings. And so I think that's a brilliant one, being able to dance at weddings. And maybe you just want to feel good in your body again. And so this isn't about running marathons, although if that is your thing, go right ahead and put it on your list. And it's not about getting the perfect body, whatever that means to you. It's about imagining a future where movement is your friend again and where your body supports the life that you want. So I want you to paint a picture for yourself that's really, really vivid, that you can practically feel it, touch it. Because when you see yourself moving freely and easily and with fun and joy, it creates this natural pull forward for you. It's like a magnet driving you into that vision that you have, just a little bit by a little bit. So what does light you up? What makes your heart sing? How could movements be a natural part of something that you do that you can squeeze into maybe your already jam-packed day? So, and research shows us this, that when we have this clear, compelling vision of our future selves, we're much more likely to make choices that align with that vision. So, but it has to be your vision, not a vision that somebody else wants for you, something that you want for you. So we could all say, I want to be fitter, I want to be stronger, I want to be more flexible. I want to be able to, you know, touch my toes. That's a good one. So it's something that you can really measure as such. Can I still touch my toes? Or maybe that thing that pulls you forward is that fact that you want to dance at your grandkids' wedding. Or maybe the thing that pulls you forward is that you want to keep traveling for as long as you possibly can. Or that you want to live in your home and take care of yourself for the rest of your days. So there's lots of things that you can think about, but it has to be something that you really feel quite deeply about and that you connect with. Because when you can really connect with it, it's more likely to be something that stays front of mind for you rather than being pushed to the background when life happens. And let's face it, life does happen. No day is ever going to be perfect. There is always going to be something that happens. So we've looked so far at delving into our past and what was something that lit us up from the inside out when we were young. Then we're looking at what are the things that are going to drag us forward into the future. So now we need to bring this back to our daily choices, the present time. So this is where the rubber really meets the road, right? And so you understand your story from the past, you understand where you're going to be headed. So now it's time for you to make friends with movement again. So one small choice at a time. So some days you're going to feel like Wonder Woman, and other days you might barely be able to get out of bed. And guess what? That's totally normal. We all have those days. I have those days where, quite frankly, do not want to get out of bed. I want to pull the covers up and stay there. And the beauty is when you understand that your inner mover, when you understand that person, when you understand the vision that's pulling you forward, you have the tools to handle all those wobbles and keep moving in ways that work for you. I personally like to call this the life happens plan, because when you have that life happens plan, it means that you have these very small non-negotiables. No matter what happens, they're the things that you're going to keep doing. So remember that this needs to be about you and not your neighbor who has done a 10K run before breakfast, or not your daughter who's doing CrossFit. So it's not about anybody else. I need to be really, really clear on that. Not about anybody but you. This is about finding the things about movement that feel good, that give you a sense of life, that give you the fun and the freedom that you had as a child. Now, skiing was not something that was in even on my horizon. It was just that someone said, let's go skiing. And I said, oh, I don't know that I want to do that, but yeah, let's go do it. And quite frankly, day one, not so much, didn't really like it. Day two, when we got a new instructor, it was all females that went into that group. So that was fabulous. And I loved it. And as we got further into the week, and I was coming down these ski slopes from up at the top of the mountain, and it was so exhilarating, so breathtaking. And the thing that it reminded me of was just the child on the swing, where I would go as high that the swing would move because they were never pegged into the ground when I was a child. And it'd be moving all over the place and you jump off of it. And it was scary at the same time. It was exhilarating and it was just brilliant. And that's what skiing brings to me. So it's that here I have this equivalent of getting on the swing. Now, I can't go skiing all the time. I live in Queensland. So, we don't even get snow here. I have to go and find it in another state and I have to travel to go and find it. But there are other things that I now do that still bring me back to those feelings that I had as a child. And so when you find these things that make you feel good and give you a sense of who you are, that natural mover, firstly, before I do that, let's talk about what are some of those things. They could just be like you're doing the dishes and you break into a dance. How awesome is that? I know I do that crazy thing. Or sometimes I'm just singing while I'm mopping the floor. So I'm still moving, but I'm making it a little bit of fun. Or maybe for you, it's, going to some type of yoga class that you've been eyeing, or for, Pilates class or a strength training class. Yeah, go do that. Go lift some weights. Let's find that strong girl inside of you as well, too. So your body has this incredible way of telling you what it needs. And I call this the internal movement compass. And throughout my years of coaching, I've learned that when we tune into this natural wisdom that we have by of following the external rules about, I should do this, movement can become something that is sustainable and something that is fun and something that can bring some freedom to us as well too. And I've learned this lesson the hard way as well too, because when I pushed myself too hard in my 40s, thinking, no pain, no gain, and that was the only way forward. It wasn't really. I now know better. So research shows us that sustainable change comes from consistent movement that makes you feel good, not movement that punishes you and completely exhausts you. Although I'm not saying don't go and do the exhausting stuff, because the exhausting stuff is good too. Let's now talk about overcoming this movement guilt and shame. So I like to finish up each of these episodes with a move moment. So before I do that, I want to address something that might come up for you right now, because I know many of you might be sitting there thinking, like, this sounds all lovely, Peter. And I know I should be doing more. And I know I should be exercising harder. And I know I should have started years ago. So I know all those things. But I want to talk about that word should for a minute. The word has probably done more damage to our relationship with movement than any injury or busy schedule could ever do. The truth is that guilt doesn't motivate us, it paralyzes us. And where we're constantly telling ourselves we're not doing enough, not doing it right, not doing it often enough, our brains actually shut down. We go into that freeze response where it feels like it's easier to do nothing than to do something wrong. And I see this all the time. We see these highlights on social media of women who have like totally got it all figured out, look like they've got it all figured out. They're up at 5 a.m. They've got perfect form in their exercises, and we think, well, everybody else is doing it better than me, so why do I bother? But what we're not seeing is the struggles that they have. We're not seeing their bad days. We're not seeing the times when they barely wanted to get out of bed. What we're not seeing is that many of them started exactly where you might be right now. And of course, then there's the body shaming as well too. Women telling themselves they're too old or they're too out of shape or they're just too far gone. And here's the research that shows us that shame actually inhibits behavior change. So, but self-compassion, when we show ourselves a little bit of grace, it promotes it. So when you give yourself permission to do something and do it right now, you're going to feel so much better. You don't need to earn the right to move. You don't need to punish your body for past choices. You don't need to make up for lost time. You only have to give yourself permission to start exactly where you are with exactly what you have and be proud of every single step forward that you take. And this is where good enough is actually perfect. Because I know that there's probably a few of you that are listening to this today that want to do everything perfectly, but good enough is perfect. So your intentional movement compass knows what you need better than any other fitness influencer or coach or exercise program could ever know. So you want to talk to yourself like you do your best friend and think about, are you going to tell her that story that she's not good enough? Are you going to tell her that she's done an awesome job today and that she should be super proud of that small step that she took towards feeling better in her body? I bet you're going to do the second one, right? You would definitely do that for a friend, and I want you to do that for yourself. We're getting to the pointy end of this where we're going to wrap up. So we're going to move into our move moment. And here's one that I want you to do with me. I want you to stand up. I'm not going to stand up though. I'm just going to sit taller. But I want you to close your eyes and take a deep breath. And I want you to think back to a time when movement was fun for you. Maybe you were 7, maybe you were 17, maybe you were 27. Maybe you were dancing in the kitchen, maybe you were running on the beach, maybe you were playing with your kids in your backyard. What did that feel like in your body? Can you remember the sense of freedom, that feeling of your body being your friend instead of something you had to manage or something that you had to fix? Now, keeping that memory in your heart, I want you to give yourself permission to wiggle, stretch, or maybe even sway for the next 30 seconds. There's no right or wrong way to do this. Maybe you want to roll your shoulders. Maybe you want to reach your arms up in the sky. Maybe you want to do a little dance right where you are now. This is your inner mover. She's saying hello to you, and she is reminding you that fun, freedom comes from movement and that you do have this person inside of you. So take one more deep breath for me. I want you to notice what you felt. And even if you felt a little silly or it felt a little unfamiliar, you did it. And you choose to move through fun instead of obligation. That's your inner mover. And she's ready to come out and play whenever you are ready for her to do that. So just in summary, what we've done today is we've talked about your inner mover. She hasn't gone anywhere. She's just patiently waiting for you to remember that movement can be fun instead of being some other chore. Secondly, that the movement pathways in your brain can be cleared at any stage, at any age, at any fitness level, at any point in your life. And the science backs that up. But more importantly, I've seen it happen with loads and loads, thousands of women over the years. Thirdly, start with fun, not shoulds. Shoulds are not going to get you anywhere. So start with fun. Your body will tell you what it needs if you listen with compassion instead of criticism. And finally, give yourself permission to start small and be very proud of every single step that you take. You don't need to earn the right to move. So your weekly challenge is this. I want you to move like no one is watching for just 2 minutes a day. Dance to one song while you're making dinner. Stretch like a cat when you wake up. Walk around your garden and notice the flowers and the trees and the sun or whatever's going on around your neighborhood. The key here is to move for a bit of fun. Notice how it feels to reconnect with that part of you that moves because it is fun, not because you have to, and pay attention to what your inner mover loves. She's got some beautiful wisdom to share with you if you only just listen to you. So thank you for joining me today. I'll be back next week. I'll see you then. Take care. Bye.